Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Dungeon Boss FAQ series. Today's episode is going to cater towards the newer player as well as those who do not have a maxed out roster. We're going to be talking about the Aether shop, and this is going to be my complete Aether guide as far as how you're going to farm Aether, what's the best possible way to do it, who are the best heroes to use, and so on and so forth. So most likely, if you're interested in Aether farming, it's likely going to come down to one of two heroes, usually Ember Sanguine or Arya. Now, I've already maxed out Arya. I haven't invested in Ember at this point. I do have her, I think, 3 stars or so. I'm kind of holding on to my Aether at this point because I'm worried that as soon as I spend the Aether on Ember, they're going to release a new unique hero. So I don't feel the need personally to have Ember at 6 stars, so I haven't contributed much more to her. Also, if you've invested in Ember early, you'll know that her ascension costs are very, very high. So for lower level players, it may not be worth it for you either. So since runes came out, Arya has been a little bit lackluster. She's not anywhere near the threat that she used to be. So don't feel like you have to use your Aether for either of these two heroes. Other people will have additional tabs in this one with other heroes. That's what I would recommend using your Aether on. If you're, let's say, 5 tokens away from a 5-star this hero or that hero, that's probably going to be the best usage of your Aether rather than spending tens of hundreds of thousands of Aether on someone like Arya, for example, who's very, very expensive. There are items in here that you can use as well. Personally, I don't waste my Aether on these things when you can usually get them pretty easily, with the one instance of sometimes I'll buy raid tickets here if I'm really, really hard up for them. But anyways, farming Aether is not a complex procedure. It's obviously, I guess it's pretty obvious for most people. So if you're looking for my take on things, that's what you're going to get here. It's, like I said, certainly not difficult to do. When you're scrolling through your hero list, for those who are very, very new to the game, Aether is only generated after you've gotten 6-star heroes. Every single hero, once you get tokens after that 6-star, is going to generate Aether. So clearly, the best heroes in the game are going to generate the best Aether, and the worst heroes are going to generate the worst Aether. And I do have a table of values to show you who to use and who to not use. But in general, if you look at a hero and think, oh, this is a pretty good guy, for example, Hansuke, he's a pretty good hero. He has a dungeon that you can farm. He's likely going to give more Aether than somebody like Jabberjaw or Squinch or Selwyn and so on. So the question then becomes, who are the best heroes to farm for Aether so that I can maximize my potential per day? And so there's really only 3 levels of Aether that you can get. There is 5, there's 10, and then there's 25. So the absolute worst heroes are going to give you 5, middle tier heroes are going to give you 10, and the ones that are usually not farmable, as well as these couple of last elite ones, are going to give you 25. There are a couple of heroes that give 35. I believe they're Igorok is one, and then Ponti is the another one. There might be a couple other ones, but I don't recall them off the top of my head. Neither of those two can be farmed effectively, so we're not going to touch on those. Now, when it comes to farming, your basic goal should be, I have 60 stamina, and I'm done with my normal playing for the day, for example. What's the best use of that 60 stamina? Now, it makes sense that you want to use your stamina in a way that's going to yield you the most possible Aether. So using your stamina to quick loot on Torchy, for example, does not make a lot of sense when we clearly just saw that there was Hansuke, and he's going to yield 25 Aether for that one token. Now, you can't guarantee that you're going to hit the token every single time. That's the only downside to this. But when we start looking at the overall numbers, you'll be able to see which ones are going to be the best ones to go after. And I'll show you those in a little bit, because that should be your secondary Aether farming mechanism, in my opinion. The very first way that you want to farm Aether, every single day, every single person should have this quest. Use any portal. If you're not in a guild, I don't know if it's there, but if you're not in a guild, get in a guild and do this quest every day. Do yourself some PvP, and every single day, grab the portal and do an honor summon. The reason being is, when you do an honor summon, you always have a chance of hitting the mother load here, which is going to be Ponti. Ponti has a 35 per unlock. So if you hit one of the, congratulations, 35 Ponti tokens, 35 tokens times his, he also has higher Aether as well. So you'd get 35 tokens, I think, or maybe 30 tokens, and then it's 35 Aether per. So you get over 1,000 Aether if you pull one of those unlocks. Otherwise, usually you just end up getting one person, 25 Overlord tokens, and here's my Aether climbing, 250 Aether. This is probably the best way to generate Aether once you get those heroes, because most of the heroes in here are going to be good value for you. Running dungeons is not usually a good usage of stamina. So this is the easiest way to do it. You almost do it on autopilot every day. It only costs you 500 honor, which is basically like 3 raids winning. So just do it and let the stuff just auto flow in. Otherwise, what I want to point you to is there are some other options that you can do here. If you're really grindy, if you're towards the top, you can certainly do stuff like this here. And you can grind into the boss 100, get some extra tokens there. Certainly it's the most difficult of all the ways, aside from just farming 1 token per day for certain dungeons. If you make it into the top 100, you will at least get... Sorry, I can't scroll. You will at least get a few tokens. Not a lot, but a little. Probably the most voluminous way to get tokens is going to be with your weekly guild performance. So, like I said, get in a guild, and then look at your roster here, and then, where do I want to go? Sorry. We want to do leaderboards is what we want. Guild crowns earned, rewards. All you got to do is get into a top guild and you'll get 25 tokens per week. Now, these don't change very often, so you can start cashing in on Haggard tokens very, very quickly. And even if you end up maxing him out then, and they do change, there's only a few heroes that they put in here. It's actually very, very stagnant. So Haggard's been in here for quite a while, and so you get 25 per week, and then he's a 25 Aether per, so that's 625 Aether per week. So it's not a lot, but it's again, it's very easy to do, and it's highly recommended. So that being said, when we look at the overall heroes, who's going to be the best ones to go at? And what I'm referring to is when you start looking at certain heroes, for example, we'll pick somebody that has a hero token that is going to issue 25 Aether. And we look at someone like Pygnius. When we run Pygnius dungeons, do you think it would make more sense to run the 5 stamina dungeon or the 7 stamina dungeon? That's exactly what I'm saying in terms of how obvious this should be. Now, maybe you don't know the exact Aether values for each of the heroes, and that's what I'm here to help with. But it makes perfect logistical sense. If I only have 60 stamina left here, why would I waste those on the 7 stamina dungeons when I can find Pygnius with a 5, as well as some other heroes that have 5s as well, and try and maximize my expenditure? That's the goal of farming Aether. Now, you do have to consider the aspect of whether you want to farm Aether in the first place. Like I said, unless you're trying to max out Arya or someone like that, Aether is not critically important. It can certainly help someone with a developing roster, but it's not a requirement. It's good for polishing off certain heroes. If you want to bank a whole bunch of it like I do, you can certainly do that. I personally don't do a ton of specific farming where I grab heroes like this and try to maximize it. Partially because I like to save my stamina. So if you do a ton of farming, you're going to burn through your stamina. If you've seen from previous videos, I routinely have around 8,000 or 9,000 stamina. That's to prepare for things like the guild games that we just had. And so that stamina comes in very, very handy when you need it for really grind-heavy events like that. So if you are wondering how I do my farming and how I have accumulated Aether, most of it is from just regular guild performance and non-spending. That is a lot, and from playing for 2 years plus, so that'll do it as well. But my normal farming that I'll do, usually when I'm done playing for the day, I try to keep up on materials as best as possible, because rune crafting and epic upgrades require a ton of materials, particularly those pyre embers. So what I do is I go into the crafting menu, materials, etched bars, grab the fire etched bar, and by the way, this last event was very heavy on etched bars and some other things, so I was able to build a ton of these, or not etched bars, but pyre embers. So I was able to build and stockpile a bunch of etched bars. But basically I go into the etched bar crafting, grab the pyre ember, and I will actually just do a quick loot on every one of these Pyre Ember ones. So I'll start from the top, and I'll do quick loot on every one of these. So they're just a bunch of random heroes. They're all crypt dungeons. If you didn't ever notice that, that's what yields the Pyre Embers. But there's like, I want to say about 20 of these dungeons that I'll go through. And that'll be my farming for the day. So it yields a bunch of Aether for each of the tokens that I hit, and more importantly, it helps me stockpile Pyre Embers, which are very, very critical. When I start getting a decent supply of Pyre Embers, then I'll switch over to something like Silver, which tends to run out quite a bit in epic upgrades as well. So that's how I do my farming. But without further ado, you probably came here to see what the actual Aether counts for each hero are. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that. Sorry for the audio change in quality, but that's kind of how I roll. And here we go. Alrighty, so here's what I did with this particular sheet here. So I went through every single hero, and I looked at how many farmable dungeons do we have, what is their Aether count per token, and what's the total stamina that's going to cost to yield every single one of those tokens. And I basically just whipped up a quick little ratio that basically says if you spend all the stamina, assuming a perfect 100% success rate, here's the ratio of how much stamina it costs you, or Aether per stamina that you get. And so obviously we want to get the highest value for our buck is what we want. And so all of these first ones, when I did the sort, it's just because of the alphabetical sort, I skipped a lot of heroes because they did not have farmable dungeons. Now it did talk about Ponti, for example, where because even though he's not farmable, Ponti is still a way to try and get Aether because of the honor summon. Some of these other ones will qualify for that as well. But if they did not have an explicitly farmable dungeon, I left them on off here because you want to be able to farm these dungeons and not just use their hero tokens for Aether if you can't just get them routinely. So at the top of my list of actual farmability, it's a little bit atypical, but Yorick stands alone as the best possible one to farm via ponage points from the tower. So he's the only one where when you do one instance of a purchase, essentially, you get 30 Aether. That's because he yields 3 tokens when you buy him from the tower. So 3 tokens at 10 per, and he'll give you basically 30 Aether. His Aether cost, when you break it down, is the 1337, at least for me, in the tower. When you buy it with the ponage points, that will give you 3 tokens. It amounts to basically 44 cups per 1 Aether, if you want to break it down. So he's kind of unique in all of the rest of these here. But looking at the rest of them, I did a sort on this ratio here. So there are a number of heroes that have 25 Aether, and they have a dungeon available where there is only a stamina cost of 5. Those are the ones that you want to run first. So any of these heroes that you have, these are the best ones that you want to run as far as Aether farming. So Balog is actually probably the single best at something. Nobody would have ever guessed that. In terms of mass silence, yeah, he's probably the best at that. But in terms of the best overall in the game at something worthwhile, he's the best at Aether farming because he is the only real 25 Aether hero that has the low 5 stamina cost. He's got 2 dungeons at 5 stamina each, 25, and so he yields, you can get a total of 50 Aether from him. There are some other heroes that have 25, but their cost is a little bit different. So for example, Pygnius, he has 3 dungeons available at 25 each, but some of those are 7s as well. So his ratio goes down a little bit. I guess technically, nope, Ice Pick is a little bit lower as well. He's a 4.1. But looking at this list here, and I'll keep on here for a few seconds so you can see all of the 25s out there, you want to take a look at your roster and identify the ones that are going to give 25 per. There are only a few that really screw you over. For example, if you scroll way to the bottom to Zom, all 3 of Zom, or not Zom, Braum, all 3 of Braum's dungeons are 7 tokens each. They yield 25, but they're not very good. Same with Ice Bloom, yields some of the worst values there. So you want to focus on those first 10 or so, 10 or 15 values, and look at those heroes. They're going to give you the best possible Aether for your buck. Now, if you only have some of the mid-tier heroes, there are the next ones that yield 10 Aether per. These are most of the ones that you see in the honor summon for the most part. So Theron and Takumi, most of these guys are straight up ratio of 2. So there are a few that here that are better as well. So the general rule when you're farming Aether, find the heroes that have the most possible Aether first, and then just run the dungeons that cost 5 stamina. In the long run, that's going to save you the most stamina. That's going to be the most efficient use. Now, if you're relatively new to farming Aether in the first place, you may be stuck with only Nub Nub, for example. Like my alt right now only has 2 6-star heroes, and that is Yasmin and Nub Nub, because at the time, healing was super critical. Those 2 epics were an absolute must-have, and then shortly after I got to that point, they changed the auto-run dungeons to use abilities, so that negated the need to have Nub Nub and Yasmin with their epics. And then just recently with the combat revamp, healing is kind of nerfed as well. So I'll eventually be working on other heroes as well, but my alt is not a priority. So if you're just interested in looking to see what the numbers are, this will be posted out onto the forum. I will put the link in the video description so you can access it and look at it as you see fit, and see what the Aether count is for each of your heroes that you have and how you can farm them. So hopefully this was a little informative for the newer or lesser experienced players. I'm sure the advanced players already have all they need to know about the Aether. So if you watched anyways, I certainly thank you for that. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave those in the comments below, and I will always address them as much as I can. Otherwise, we will see you again, and thanks a lot for watching.
Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. If you like this video, please show your continued support by hitting that like button, and be sure to check out both my YouTube channels for new content all the time. And always remember, peace is a lie, there's only passion. We'll see you next time.